Hey runners, I'm Stephen Lawrence, the 2023 World Age Group Marathon Champion and multiple Boston and Chicago Marathon Age Group winner. Today, we're diving into what might be the most misunderstood topic in endurance sports, racing weight. I'm working through Racing Weight by Matt Fitzgerald, and the first few chapters have some eye-opening insights about finding your optimal racing weight. Let me share something that might surprise you. I race about 7 pounds heavier now than I did in my college years. Yet I'm winning my age group at world championships and major marathons. I don't think this is a limitation. I actually believe it's optimal for my current performance. And that's exactly what we're exploring today. How to find your ideal racing weight and why traditional dieting could actually hurt your running. The book introduces a crucial distinction right away. Your optimal performance weight isn't just about the number on the scale. It's the combination of weight and body composition when you're performing at your best. Think of it like finding your perfect race day outfit. It's not about following a standard formula, but discovering what works best for you through experience. As a Masters runner, I've learned something crucial about racing weight that the book addresses head on. Our bodies change as we age, and fighting too hard to maintain our younger years racing weight can actually hurt our performance. Here's why. After 40, we naturally start losing muscle mass, about 3 to 5% per decade if we don't actively work to prevent it. And once you've lost that muscle, it's much harder to gain it back than when we were younger. This has two important implications for racing weight. First, we might need to accept that a slightly higher racing weight to maintain the muscle mass that protects us from injury and helps power our running. In my case, racing 7 pounds heavier than my college weight isn't a compromise, it's a strategic decision. This extra muscle helps keep me injury-free during high-mileage training blocks and gives me the strength I need for those final miles in the marathon. Second, we need to be much more careful about how we approach weight loss. Aggressive calorie restriction tends to cause muscle loss along with the fat loss. When you're younger, you can usually regain that muscle pretty easily. But as a Masters athlete, that lost muscle becomes much harder to rebuild. The key is finding a sweet spot where you're lean enough to race well, but strong enough to handle the training load and to recover properly. This might mean your optimal racing weight now is different than it was 10 or 20 years ago, and that's perfectly okay. Let's look at a powerful example from triathlon. Ironman champion Chris McCormick initially thought he needed to be as light as possible to win at Kona. He got down to 171 pounds on his big frame, but his cycling power dropped so much that he couldn't even finish the race. When he finally won in 2007, he was actually racing at 177 pounds, heavier but stronger. He went on to win again in 2010 at 175 pounds. McCormick's experience perfectly illustrates a key principle here. Optimal racing weight isn't about being as light as possible. It's about finding the right weight that supports your best performance. So how do we find our racing weight? The book recommends tracking 3 key metrics: body weight, body fat percentage, and performance measures specific to your sport. But here's one crucial aspect. Timing really matters here. Trying to drop weight while reducing mileage during a taper is a recipe for disappointment. In the past, I've procrastinated on getting down to racing weight, and have found it difficult to do it in the last few weeks, since I wasn't putting in the mileage or the intensity, and therefore wasn't burning the calories. You want to be at your racing weight through proper training and nutrition, not through a restrictive diet, so I'd recommend not leaving it until too late in the training block. Let's get practical. The book provides a systematic way to estimate your starting target weight. Here's how it works. First, you'll need to get your current body fat percentage measured. This could be using a body fat scale, calipers, or some other method. I'm just using the body fat percentage from the scales we have in our bathroom. It's probably not perfect, but it seems to track as long as I take the same measurement at the same time each day. I usually take my measurements in the morning when I get up. If I wait until after I run, then the results tend to look different. There are pros and cons of different measurement tools, but we won't get into that in this video. Once you have that number, you'll compare it to what the book calls the percentile rankings for your age and gender. The book suggests that most competitive endurance athletes can reach at least the 80th percentile for their age group. That means being leaner than 80% of active people your age. Let me show you how this works with a quick example. Say you're a 40-year-old male runner weighing 170 pounds with a 16.4% body fat. Taking a look at chart 2.1. So there's actually two charts for 2.1. You need to pick the one for your gender. In this case, this athlete is a 40-year-old male, so we're going to pick the chart on the left. And from this chart, you're looking for the column that represents this person's age. So this is a 40-year-old athlete, so we're going to use the 40 to 49 column. And then we just kind of work your way down the column until you find the closest body fat percentage. And so there's no 16.4% body fat on this chart, but 16.3 is pretty close. And you can see that the 16.3 body fat equates to the 80th percentile. This one's a little bit lower. This athlete's a little bit lower. And so I'm going to say approximately the 79th percentile. And then you just look further to the left and you look for the goal. The goal for somebody in that range is to improve by 10 percentiles. It's not to improve by 10% body fat. So you're not trying to go from 16.4 to 10.4, or sorry, to 6.4. You're trying to just move up 2 rows in the chart. So that would be 10 percentile points. And so this, the goals here adjust based on sort of where you're at. For the relatively lean athletes at the top of the chart, the improvements are appropriately to lose quite a bit less. Towards the bottom, you can see if you're between the first and the 35th percentile, meaning that 99 to 65% of the population is leaner than you, then the goal here is to improve by 25%. So again, not 25% body fat, but to move up the chart 25 percentiles. Or for this chart, it's actually moving up five rows. And for kind of the middle of the chart, the goals are pretty generic, and that's to reach 80%, the 80th percentile. As you get to the leaner end, the goals become to make smaller improvements from a body fat percentage. So you can see for this athlete, going back to our example for our 40-year-old male athlete, the goal here is for them to move up 10 percentile points. So in this case, they're going to be going from 16.4 up to 13.7. So you can see they're just a little bit below that 16.3, and they're just going to go up to be a little bit below that 13.6. Okay, so once you have the body fat percentage goal, the next step is to calculate the ideal racing weight. So the first step here is to calculate your lean body mass. And so this is just your body mass with all the fat subtracted. Obviously, that's not an ideal weight. That's just if you take away all the fat. So you can see the calculation here to get the lean body mass percentage, which in this case is 83.6%. That was just taking the 100% and subtracting the current body fat percent of 16.4%. And so this athlete has a lean body mass percent of 100 minus 16.4, or 83.6%. So then we multiply that by their current weight of 170 pounds, and we get 142.1 pounds of lean body mass. Okay, so now that we know what the lean body mass is, and this is your body just stripped away of all its fat, we'll add an ideal amount of fat back on. We previously calculated that this was going to be a goal of 13.6% for this athlete. And so we're going to take the lean body mass, that's 142.1 pounds, and then divide that by 100% minus the 13.6% ideal body fat percent. So we end up with 142.1 pounds divided by 86.4%. And then we end up with an ultimate goal weight for this athlete of being 164.5 pounds. Clearly, this is just a fictitious example. You'd want to do the same exercise for your values and for your table as well if you're a female athlete. But hopefully you can walk through the same process. And even if you're using the metric system, it's still the same process. You would just insert kilograms in place of pounds. What I love about this approach is that it's not one size fits all. The targets adjust based on your age and current level of body fat. And remember, these are just starting points. Your actual optimal racing weight might be different once you factor in performance. A word of caution though, if you're already quite lean, say in the 95th percentile or above, you shouldn't target additional fat loss. The goal is to optimize performance, not to get as lean as possible. This brings us to a critical distinction: why dieting is fundamentally different from performance weight management. Traditional dieting typically involves caloric restriction, food group elimination, and is based around short-term thinking. While performance weight management focuses on supporting training needs, maintaining muscle mass, and long-term sustainability, with performance as the primary metric. Here are the main points to remember. Racing weight is about performance, not just numbers. Traditional dieting methods often backfire for athletes. Timing your weight management with your training cycle is crucial. Masters athletes need to prioritize muscle maintenance, focus on supporting performance rather than restriction. Next time, we'll look at the first practical step in the racing weight system: improving your diet quality. This is where things get really actionable, and I'll share some specific strategies that have worked for me, that have allowed me to eat as much as I want and still lose the last few pounds while feeling energetic. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to follow along in this journey. And let me know in the comments how you can tell when you've reached your optimal racing weight.